So Nvidia GPUs are finally going on sale. That's the best way to describe it. I'm even getting emails from places like Micro Center pushing GPUs. They never used to do this. In fact, they probably would hide the most desirable GPUs. Today, we're going to talk about what's a good value out there with these dropping prices. And while you may think it's a better idea to wait this late into the cycle to get RTX 4000 and buy a good deal, I don't mean both of these 3090 Ti that you can do in NVLink or SLI. Definitely not a good value, but I guess somebody has to do it. I mean, today is April Fool's, but this 3090 Ti SLI combo is no April Fool's. I know SLI is completely useless and dead. Trust me, you don't have to lecture me on it, but still looks really cool, and occasionally with some benchmarks and even some games, you do get some pretty cool performance. But we're not going to talk about that. Terrible value. Today, we want to talk about what GPUs have been dropping in price and what you should consider looking at. So we're going to go basically right through the pricing tiers, and we're going to save the more expensive ones towards the end, and we're going to see which one is the best value, so you may want to watch all the way into the end. First, let's start if you have a little bit more of a budget range. Budget has changed because now everything's so expensive. Before, you could get a good GPU for under 200 bucks. Now, that's going to be more difficult, even with dropping prices. First, 6500 XT, avoid this GPU at all costs. Even when there was nothing available, you probably did not want this GPU anyway, so we'll just throw that to the side. Now, 6600 and 6600 XT, you may be able to find them cheaper than the RTX 3050, even in the $300 range, and especially the 6600 XT, I think you're going to get some pretty respectable performance out of this GPU. I don't really think it's a bad deal at all. I mean, it certainly isn't the cheapest thing ever, but once again, budget has certainly been redefined, so you definitely want to sort of keep your eyes on this GPU if around the $300 to $400 range is going to be your sort of price range. On the Nvidia side, of course, 3050 may start to creep down in the lower 400s. Sometimes a 3060 may even be in the very high 400s, but generally those are still around like the $500 range. And remember, a 3060 should have been $329, but after all, very difficult to find. If you can find one for cheap enough, I would take that over those AMD GPUs, but if you can't, 6600 XT is actually not too bad, much better than the 6500 XT, which, like we mentioned before, is really pretty garbage. Now, 6700 XT was highly priced for most of the year. Now it's around $600 to $700. I'm not sure if that really warrants a purchase over something like a 3060 Ti or a 3070, especially with 3060 Ti's getting under $700, under $600 rather, and the 3070s are definitely under $700. So probably would look more towards that side. If you want a really great performing GPU, 3060 Ti is going to be a good blend of a good price, and it's basically a little bit of a stripped down 3070. As you get a little bit higher, something that might actually be a pretty good value now, if you can get a 699 3070 Ti, like an Asus TUF, or of course a Founders Edition 3070 Ti, you're probably only going to be able to get this at Best Buy, but it is $599. I mean, that's a terrific deal. Any of the Founder Edition GPUs, you can pretty much forget any type of price comparison to the third-party AIBs. Those generally are going to be much superior. Not generally, performance may be close, some of them are better. The coolers are definitely very high quality, but pricing-wise, they're going to be considerably cheaper than the AIB models. As you get to the 3080, that's when pricing goes a little bit wonky. Original 3080 you can find maybe for $800 to $900, but the 10 gigabyte version has been increasingly harder to find. Generally, you're going to find the 12 gigabyte version, which is obscenely overpriced, $1,200 to $1,300. I really don't think that one is worth it at all. Of course, you're going to get a little bit better performance and a little bit more VRAM than the 3070 Ti, but that's a huge price delta of at least maybe $500 or $600. Certainly not worth it. If you're going to go for a high-end GPU, I almost rather that you look at the 3080 Ti, because many models are getting down very close to the price of the 3080 12 gigabyte. At least it's a 3080 Ti. It's going to have the same 12 gigabytes of VRAM, but it's still going to be a little bit faster, and it's a Ti version, so it is a little bit higher end version, and I think that's where the good value most likely stops. I mean, the only other GPU that may beat these in this range will be a 6900 XT. I posted a video a few weeks ago that at Micro Center, the MSI, the Trio X, went down as low as $1,049 with a $50 rebate, so that's a tremendous value for a performing GPU if you don't need ray tracing necessarily. If you're just traditional rasterization, that GPU for that price is going to be pretty much superior to anything else that's going to be much higher. It can even beat the RTX 3090 in certain games, and at almost half the price. And the RTX 3090 Ti, definitely not really good value. You can get much better gaming performance, but if you're looking for like a hybrid workstation and gaming GPU, and you need a 24 gigabytes of VRAM, I would probably look at the 3090 Ti over the 3090 because they're basically the same price. Of course, Founders Edition $1499 for the 3090, and the 3090 Ti is $1999, but generally you're not going to find the Founders Edition 3090 just because it's much harder and it's only available at Best Buy. You're much more likely to find another $2,000 3090 from like Asus or from EVGA rather than that Founders Edition, and those typically are comparing pretty favorably to the 3090 Ti. So the 3090 Ti is going to be between 5 to 10% faster in games. It does have the same amount of VRAM, but it is faster than the 3090, which may be good in certain applications, and it's also going to be cooled considerably better. They're much thicker coolers. The VRAM is on one side now instead of on the bottom and on the top. That certainly seems from early reports to have helped with cooling thus far, and if you're going to pay the same price basically as an AIB 3090, you might as well get the Ti version. Even if it's a small difference, you're basically paying the same price. I'd be against it if it was like $500 more in the real world, but as we see, it really isn't, since 3090s are definitely inflated in pricing. So that's really the basic rundown. The GPU that I would consider the best value, it still remains somewhere in the 3060 Ti to 3070 Ti range. Before, 3070 Ti at $949, like most models were, was not a good value at all, way too expensive. But now that they're creeping closer to the $600 MSRP, that's a pretty attractively priced GPU. You're getting really high-end performance, almost like a 3080, and if you're paying around $699, that's very close, or exactly the same, I should say, as the Founders Edition 3080 when that was released. So definitely not bad. You're getting very close performance there, maybe with a little bit less VRAM. In general, it's going to be pretty good performance for the price. And of course, ideally, you would get a 3080 for $699, but those are very rare to get, as you guys know. Barring that, 3070 Ti, if you want to stretch it a little bit, definitely not bad. And the prices are quickly dropping on 3060 Ti's and 3070s. If you can get a 3070, of course, a better choice, but the 3060 Ti, certainly superior. I would choose that over the 3060. Even though the 3060 has 12 gigabytes of VRAM, it's still a vastly inferior GPU to the 3060 Ti, which is more in the class of a 3070. So just to keep that in mind, those are the three GPUs I would consider the best value. Of course, barring the Founders Edition, like we said, those are just priced way too attractively to really merit any comparison, just because they're very difficult to find, and generally only if you get lucky in like a Best Buy drop or something like that can you actually snag one of those up. So let me see what deals you guys are seeing out there. Are you actually seeing sales already for GPU? Let me know what you think. Smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.